Welcome to this deep dive for Scaling Legends. You know, when you think about the whole, the AI boom, right?
Right.
The images that usually come to mind are, they're highly abstract. You picture these vast, invisible networks or just lines of code processing in the ether somewhere.
Yeah, totally. Like a sleek new interface on your phone.
Exactly. We're sort of conditioned to view AI as this purely digital, almost weightless force. But the reality of the cloud is that it actually lives very, very heavily on the ground.
Oh, absolutely.
Right now, the sheer volume of concrete and structural steel and high voltage copper required just to keep that digital brain from overheating, it is completely reshaping the physical world.
It really is. It's the great paradox of our modern technological era, I think. Because the more sophisticated and virtual our software becomes, the more massive and heavy and frankly power hungry the physical infrastructure has to be to support it.
Right.
I mean, you cannot run a localized large language model without moving an incredible amount of dirt first.
Which brings us to our mission for today's deep dive. Especially for you listening, if you own a construction business, we are looking at the massive, just unmissable headline from the April 22nd release of the ENR 2026 Top 500 Design Firms.
It's a game changer.
It really is. The AI boom has officially crossed over from being just a Silicon Valley tech story into the single biggest rising tide in the construction industry right now.
Yeah, the numbers are wild.
We're talking about collective design revenue across the top 500 that just crossed the $62 billion mark.
Wow.
That is up high single digits year over year, $62 billion.
It is a staggering amount of capital just flowing into the built environment right now.
It's hard to even conceptualize that number. It's essentially the GDP of a small country, but deployed purely into blueprints and engineering schematics.
Yeah.
It makes me think of like laying down the original transcontinental railroad network, but instead of iron tracks and steam engines, we are laying down gigawatt substations and high-density cooling pipes, fiber optic spines, all that.
That's a great analogy, actually, like the old picks and shovels of the gold rush.
Exactly. So our goal today is to unpack this massive shift. We're going to pinpoint exactly where the money and backlogs are concentrating and really lay out a concrete teaming strategy for you so general contractors and trade contractors can win a piece of this next round of AI infrastructure work.
Because, look, the old rules of commercial construction procurement, they simply do not apply to this sector anymore.
No, they don't.
If you want a piece of that $62 billion design pipeline, you really have to understand the specific engineering dynamics driving it.
Let's start by following the backlog then, because if you want to know where an industry is heading, you look at what's waiting in the pipeline.
Right.
We are seeing a complete rewiring of the construction economy. Based on Smart Business Automator's market intelligence report, AI campuses and data centers now represent a staggering 24% of the backlog for the top 50 firms.
Which is huge.
It's massive that it's up from just 11% 2 years ago. And then when you stack advanced manufacturing on top of that, meaning semiconductor fabs, massive battery plants, EV assembly lines, that adds another 18%.
Yeah. So when you put those two buckets together, you are looking at 42% of the entire backlog for the biggest design and engineering firms in the country.
Nearly half.
Yes, dedicated entirely to high-tech, mission-critical infrastructure. And the firms that recognize this shift early, they are seeing incredible returns.
Oh, for sure. If you look at the organizations posting double-digit backlog growth, it's heavyweights like AECOM, Jacobs, Stantec. They're pivoting their massive global resources aggressively toward these data campuses.
Right, and you also see architectural giants, right?
Yeah.
Like Gensler, HOK, SOM, and BBJ sitting right alongside engineering powerhouses like HDR and WSP and Arcadis.
Yeah.
They're all reaping the rewards of this hyper-focused demand.
It really looks like a tidal wave lifting very specific boats because the top 50 firms in the ENR rankings are averaging 14% backlog growth.
Which is phenomenal.
It is. But if you look at the firms sitting just outside that top 50 tier, they're averaging only 6%.
Yeah, big drop-off.
So what's the underlying mechanic here? Are legacy commercial projects, your standard high-rises, retail centers, corporate headquarters, are they just slowly dying out, or is AI simply swallowing all the new growth in the room?
It is absolutely the latter. AI is acting like a gravitational black hole for new growth capital.
Wow.
Yeah, those legacy commercial projects you mentioned, they are dead, but they are incredibly sensitive to macroeconomic headwinds.
Oh, like interest rates.
Exactly. If the prime interest rate goes up, or if, remote work trends shift office leasing demands, a standard commercial high-rise project might just get paused or canceled.
Sure.
But AI capital expenditure is currently operating in an alternate reality. It is almost completely immune to those traditional headwinds.
Wait, completely immune?
Practically, yeah.
Yeah.
The major tech giants are locked in this existential arms race.
Yeah.
They're pouring billions into these physical infrastructure campuses, regardless of what interest rates are doing.
Because they have to.
Right, because the cost of losing the AI race is viewed as catastrophic to their valuations.
Okay, so the money is flowing fast, but it can't just flow anywhere, right? You can't build a hyperscale data center on a whim in any random zip code.
No, absolutely not.
The geographical hotspots pulling in this capital are highly specific. We're seeing massive concentration in Northern Virginia, which, that's always been the undisputed heavyweight champion of data centers.
Oh yeah, data center alley.
Exactly, but also Dallas-Fort Worth, Phoenix, Atlanta, Columbus, and Reno.
Well, the geography is dictated entirely by resource constraints.
Right.
To build one of these campuses, a tech giant needs a perfect, incredibly rare alignment of factors. They need massive tracts of affordable land, incredibly friendly local tax incentives, and most importantly, access to a staggering amount of water for liquid cooling systems.
And power, I assume.
Oh, an incredibly robust regional power grid. You are talking about single campuses that require gigawatts of power.
Mm-hmm.
You simply cannot drop that kind of load onto a standard municipal grid without browning out the surrounding county.
Right. So if the geographic footprint is that restrictive, who is actually qualified to do the physical building?
Yeah.
Because if you're constructing a gigawatt facility, you aren't just hiring a standard commercial crew.
No, definitely not.
The technical disciplines seeing the highest demand right now are deeply specialized. MEP engineering, so mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, is absolutely dominating.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense, right? Because an AI server farm isn't really a building, it's just a massive, complex machine with a roof over it.
Exactly. The architecture is almost secondary to the MEP systems.
Mm-hmm.
The computing density of modern AI chips means they run incredibly hot.
Yeah.
Traditional forced air conditioning, where you just pump cold air down the aisles of server racks, is no longer physically capable of preventing these new graphic processing units from melting down.
So what do they do?
So the industry has shifted to direct-to-chip liquid cooling.
Meaning you literally have plumbing running directly into the server racks, like millimeters away from massive electrical current.
Precisely. You need zero-tolerance plumbing installed right next to high-voltage electrical conduits.
Oh, wow.
That is why MEP engineers and subs are suddenly the most critical players on the board. But, goes beyond them too.
Yeah.
Structural engineering is seeing massive demand because the high-load equipment, like backup generators and rooftop cooling towers, they are incredibly heavy. Geotechnical engineering is vital because the foundations for these industrial fortresses have to support unprecedented weight distributions.
Makes sense.
And finally, commissioning. The rigorous, intensive QA/QC process required before these facilities can actually be turned on is absolutely non-negotiable.
Right, because if it fails.
Exactly. A failure in the MEP system doesn't just mean a warm room. It means millions of dollars of sensitive hardware is destroyed in minutes.
Okay, let me push back on this geographical dynamic for a second, because I'm thinking about the business owners listening to us right now.
Sure.
If I own a mid-sized, highly capable specialty MEP subcontracting firm in the Midwest, say Ohio or Indiana,
Okay.
and I'm nowhere near Northern Virginia or Phoenix, am I just locked out of this 42% mix shift? Or is there a realistic way for my team to travel and capture these massive builds?
You are absolutely not locked out, but your strategy has to adapt.
Okay.
In the mission-critical sector, relationship equity travels across state lines.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, the Tier 1 design firms, the AECOMs and the HDRs of the world, they're the ones dictating these highly specialized requirements to the owners. Because the engineering tolerances are so extreme, those design firms are deeply involved in recommending which specialty subs actually have the technical chops to execute their blueprints.
Ah, I see.
If your firm in the Midwest builds a relationship with a top-tier design firm and proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt that you understand zero-leak liquid cooling and high-density power loads, that design firm will mandate your inclusion on a project in Reno or Atlanta.
Really?
Yeah, they do not want to roll the dice on an unproven local contractor just to save on travel costs. They are buying certainty. They want subs who reduce their risk profile.
So what you're saying is the traditional hierarchy where a GC wins a bid and then shops around for the lowest priced local subs, that's totally inverted here.
Completely.
The design firm is basically pre-assembling the strike team because the technical risk is just so high.
That is exactly what is happening.
And if the architects are insisting on specific, highly vetted subcontractors, what does that do to the financials of these projects? Because the traditional low bid model clearly flies out the window.
It drastically alters the margin structure. Traditionally, design firm margins on legacy commercial projects hovered around that 8 to 10% range. But on this AI campus work, those margins are jumping up to 12 to 18%.
Wow.
And the construction firms executing these mission-critical jobs are seeing a very similar substantial margin uplift.
A near doubling of margins is practically unheard of in commercial construction. Why are the tech owners willing to hand over that kind of premium?
Two reasons, really. Extreme complexity and blinding speed. The tech giants are willing to pay an 18% premium because, for them, the financial penalty of being 6 months late to market with a new AI capability, it absolutely dwarfs whatever they are paying in construction markups.
That makes a lot of sense.
But here is the catch for the construction industry. You cannot capture that 12 to 18% margin if you don't have the elite human capital to actually perform the work.
And that leads directly to the talent war we are seeing unfold right now.
Oh, it's vicious.
Firms are desperately hunting for the people who actually understand how to build these complex systems. The aggressive hiring plans are completely off the charts. You have companies like AECOM, Jacobs, and Stantec publicly announcing plans to bring on 500 to 1,000 new specialized hires specifically aimed at the 2026 pipeline.
Yeah, the numbers are huge.
And the starting salaries are reflecting that desperation. We are seeing recent college graduates with degrees in electrical engineering and MEP specializations. They're walking into immediate 20% salary bumps right out of the gate.
It is completely a seller's market for specialized engineering talent right now. These firms know that if they do not have the headcount and the expertise sitting in their offices, they simply cannot bid on the next multi-billion-dollar campus.
It makes me think of like drafting franchise quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Or like assembling an elite specialized strike force where every single member is a potential single point of failure. If you're building a Formula One car and the race has already started, you don't try to haggle over the salary of your lead aerodynamist.
No, you definitely don't.
You pay whatever it takes to get the absolute best. Because if a suspension component fails at 200 miles an hour, your entire billion-dollar investment crashes into a wall.
Exactly.
These design firms are paying massive premiums to 22-year-old engineers because fielding a fully staffed elite team is the absolute baseline requirement just to qualify for those 18% margin contracts.
That is a very accurate way to look at it. If you don't have the specialized talent locked down, you can't even get to the starting line.
Yeah.
But as appealing as an 18% margin sounds, we really have to look at the dark side of this boom.
Let's do it.
Because owners do not hand over that kind of profitability without transferring a massive amount of risk onto the builders.
I'm glad you brought that up because this is not easy money. The fast lane of mission-critical builds is incredibly chaotic. Let's talk about the specific risks.
Okay.
First, the pace of this AI infrastructure rollout is resulting in a massive amount of mid-design scope changes.
Constant changes.
Right. The underlying computing technology is evolving so rapidly that the power and cooling requirements for a server farm might literally double between the day the concrete foundation is poured and the day the exterior walls go up.
Which is a nightmare.
Meanwhile, the owners are demanding highly compressed delivery schedules. We're seeing aggressive 18 to 24-month total delivery targets for complex industrial facilities that historically took 3 to 4 years to complete.
Yeah, imagine trying to design the cardiovascular system of a professional runner.
Okay.
It's a complex task on its own. But in this scenario, halfway through your grafting process, the runner jumps onto a treadmill and starts sprinting at full speed. You suddenly have to expand the arteries and increase the lung capacity while the heart is already pumping.
Wow.
That is what it feels like to manage scope changes on an AI campus. Because of that chaos, traditional delivery methods are completely breaking down.
You mean the old linear process of design, bid, build?
Exactly. You simply do not have the luxury of waiting for 100% complete, fully stamped construction documents before you start pricing materials and moving dirt.
It's just too slow.
Far too slow for the tech sector. Instead, tightly integrated design-build syndicates are the ones winning these fast-moving contracts. You need the general contractor, the key specialty subs, and the design firms sitting at the exact same table on day one, aggressively overlapping the design and construction phases just to have a chance of hitting the schedule.
Which raises a massive red flag for any general contractor listening right now who has ever been burned by a shifting blueprint.
Oh, absolutely.
If the scope changes mid-design on an 18-month timeline, how does a GC avoid getting absolutely crushed by change orders?
It is the multi-million-dollar question. And the answer is the exact reason why early, tight integration with the design firm is mandatory.
Yep.
You survive the chaos by abandoning the traditional adversarial relationship with the design team. In a true integrated design build approach, the GC and the specialty subs provide real-time pricing and constructability feedback to the architects while the design is still evolving.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, if the tech giant comes in at month 4 and says, we need to switch to a heavier, hotter, next-generation microchip, the MEP sub is in the room to instantly tell the architect the supply chain realities for the new cooling units.
And the GC instantly updates the schedule and budget impact.
Exactly. You manage the risk by being in the room when the change is conceived, rather than receiving a revised drawing 6 months later and fighting over who pays for the delay.
Okay, so we understand the why, the where, and the incredible risks involved. Let's get incredibly practical and turn this into a tangible strategy.
Sounds good.
If I'm a construction business owner tuning in right now, I need a roadmap. What does an actionable 90-day playbook look like to break into this sector?
Well, it starts with acknowledging that the procurement model has flipped. For the specialty subcontractors listening, your first move is to pre-qualify directly with the major design firms, not just the general contractors.
Right, pitch to them.
Yeah, you have to pitch the engineering and architectural leads, demonstrating your mission-critical experience so that they write your specific firm into the project narrative from day one.
And for the general contractors.
For the GCs, the goal is to establish preferred partner status early on, targeted AI campus RFPs. You want the design firm explicitly telling the owner, we want to design this campus and we need the specific GC to build it because they fundamentally understand our blueprints and our pace.
And how do they actually identify who to target? I mean, checking Smart Business Automator's market intelligence report is a big part of this, right?
It absolutely is.
Because it features a design firm partnership directory that actually tracks roughly 180 of these specific AE firm relationships and AI campus specializations.
Which is massive.
It's a massive tool. It allows your estimating and business development teams to precisely shortlist the right architects to align with. So you aren't just cold calling a generic regional office.
Right.
You are targeting the exact project executives who are currently winning the AI campus work.
Because knowledge is only valuable when applied, right? Knowing that a tier 1 firm is winning work is just step 1. Using that directory to understand which specific regional offices handle their mission-critical portfolios, that's how you actually generate a meaningful introduction.
So here's the 90-day execution plan for our listeners. Step 1. Identify 3 top-tier design firms actively designing data centers. Step 2. Book introductory meetings with their mission-critical project executives. Step 3. Completely update your capability statement to highlight any complex, high-tolerance, or rapid schedule experience your firm has, even if it wasn't specifically a data center.
That's a great point.
And step 4. Find a way to bid on at least one AI campus project this year. Even if you go in as a secondary sub, you need to get your foot in the door and experience the velocity of these builds firsthand.
Executing that playbook in the next 90 days is vital because the window to establish yourself as a known commodity is closing while the sheer volume of work coming down the pipeline is about to explode.
Let's lay out that 18-month prediction, actually, because the forecast is honestly hard to wrap your head around.
It really is.
The current projection states that ENR top 500 design revenue derived solely from AI backlogs will cross 35% of the top 50 firms' total backlog by the fourth quarter of 2027.
Just incredible.
Let that sink in. More than a third of the future work for the biggest design firms in the world will be entirely dedicated to AI. And executing that spend is going to absorb roughly 40% of all available U.S. mission-critical design and construction capacity.
Yeah, when you zoom out and look at the macro implications of that, it is staggering. It means the specialized labor pool, the global supply chain for heavy electrical switchgear, the availability of top-tier project managers. 40% of that entire ecosystem is going to be swallowed whole by the tech sector over the next 18 months.
Wow.
The scarcity of resources is going to be felt in every single corner of the construction industry.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to mull over as you analyze your own business pipeline today. If AI and hyperscale data centers absorb 40% of the entire country's top-tier design and construction capacity by next year, what exactly happens to the schedules, the budgets, and the quality of standard everyday commercial projects?
It's a great question.
When the absolute best engineering talent, the sharpest specialty subs, and the most efficient general contractors are all locked up building server farms, who is left to build the hospitals, the schools, and the corporate retrofits?
The ripple effect on everyday construction costs and timelines is going to be profound.
It really is. The physical realities of the digital age are absolutely catching up with us. If you know a contractor who is trying to break into mission-critical work and win these AI infrastructure bids, send them this episode. It could give them the exact playbook they need to get preferred partner status before the next RFP hits. Hit follow on whatever app you're listening on so you don't miss tomorrow's intel. Visit smartbusinessautomator.com to learn more.